Laura J. Morris, welcome to Writers in Relationship.
Thank you, Gail.
It's great to see you. We have known each other for a few issues now.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember as I was prepping, how did how did how did you get involved in Hodgepodge? How did that happen?
I know Mary Lynn Rasky, or Would Read, and we had been going to Jack Grape's collective for years during the pandemic, and so we became like, peers writing together. And anyway, she had told me about this publication, and she was just like, "It's so great. I think you would be a great fit. Let me speak to everybody." And she did, and I got invited, and it's been really wonderful, and I have loved seeing it grow. Love it.
Oh, can you can
Really?
can you say more about what you've seen? Because like that's an
Yeah.
interesting perspective for us.
Yeah, because in the beginning, before I had published to this, I think during the pandemic, I got a little braver in sending out, my work, because before that I was just like closeted. And I started sending out my work and getting like everything's just started getting published. And I was like, this is so fun. This is like a high. But then I thought that's not what writing's about right now. So I stopped. And then when Mary Lynn told me about Hodgepodge, I was like, well, okay. But I didn't know. I was like, well, what is this? Because I think for most people who aren't in the writing circles, they don't really understand when you say publish, they're like, oh, then you have books. They don't understand this, the sort of online community, which is huge, but they don't understand. So you kind of have to be at peace with, what you're embarking on. So I was like, what is Hodgepodge? And anyway, and I really trusted Mary Lynn's taste. So I was like, well, let me look at it. And I remember the first publication, it was about food. And yeah, so that for me, for that was mine. I think you guys had done it before, but and the idea of looking at a painting and connecting with it, and I couldn't connect. I was like, how can I do this? I don't know. And I was really going through a weird process in it. And then something clicked, and I was literally on a plane. I think it was due like a few days later because I was doing the usual procrastination thing that every writer does. And I was on a plane, and I was thinking I'm gonna land, and I'm gonna let Mary Lynn know, you know what, I can't do it. I'm too busy. And on the plane, I wrote Burning Horses. Like I wrote it just on the plane. It just came out. And I was like, whoa, what was that? And it was so much fun. And then when I saw the rest of the pieces, I was like, God, look how everybody connected to the artwork. But how I've seen it grown, to answer your question, is um, I've seen the editorial process develop, which I love. I've seen the connection with the writers become more developed. And the way I've seen that is because I see all of the weekly that comes into my inbox. So I'm like, ooh, let me read this writer's little tidbit. And it's really inspiring. I see these little videos that come out. So, and then of course, all of the support for the writers to to be nominated is it's just incredible. I haven't seen that in a publication. So to see that kind of connection and support for writers is really exciting to me.
Oh, Laura, this does my heart so good.
Oh,
It's
good.
very nice to hear. I mean, it's an all volunteer project, and we do it because we're passionate, and we not only we believe in literature, but we also really believe in community. And then to have that reflected it really just makes me feel great. So
Well,
thank you.
I'm
Thank
glad because I really mean that. I was speaking about it yesterday to a friend. I was like, to be involved with a group of writers, but really good writers. That's the thing. It's like you can tell, that's like In fact, when I read the weekly, because I don't always have time to sit down and read the whole publication. So this gives me an opportunity just to get little bites. And I'll read one, I'm like, damn, that's good. And that's good. I am inspired by other writers being fantastic. And I want to be in a group of writers that are fantastic. So that's the other reason why when you invited me again for this last one, I was like, yes. I love it.
I love that. I love that. I love that. So tell us a little bit about your setting, your relationship with
Oh,
the setting. You haven't, there's, we were talking about that before I started
well,
records. Tell us where you are and,
I
what
will.
you're doing.
So this is not my home. This is it's an Airbnb in Los Angeles. I lived in Los Angeles for over 25 years, and I love the Spanish architecture and the archways and big windows. And I came out here. I've only been here for a couple of days for a project because I produce commercials. So I have been flitting all over the globe, and I was like, you know what? I can't stand another hotel. So I came to this Airbnb. It's in an interesting neighborhood that I never would have checked out in the past, but it's fine. And I get to see my friends, and I'm going for a hike later. It's pretty great. So yeah, they use it for still photography. As you can see, it's like an ad right here.
It's totally like an ad. It's beautiful. And
Yeah, the whole place.
where do you live? Where's your home now?
So I live just outside of New York in Maplewood, New Jersey. Yes, I
And
did that.
how long have you been in New Jersey?
I want to say less than it's been because it's long. I've been there for 12 years now. Yeah. I say that because I met my now husband on a shoot in Los Angeles, and we did the back and forth for a couple of years, and then he had children, so I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to move out to the East Coast. It's going to be great. And I remember that first snow, and I'm like, oh my God, it's snowing. And now I'm like, oh my God, it's snowing. How it changes. Anyway.
Does your set where you are, does that factor into your writing in any way?
Oh, that's interesting. Yes, it does. I haven't, some pieces I've published in the past are just, always a little, I mean, they're not always, they're, even if it's me, it's fictiony, but I'm continually plagued by the ants or the what, and then it just brings up other things or the feeling of just being in this space so it's not the house as much as New Jersey. It just crushes in on me, but not always. Sometimes it just, I escape into other realities.
So how did you're a producer. How did you start writing? Tell us a little bit about your relationship with writing and,
Well, I had started in university, and even before that, I was an actress. And yeah, when I was a teenager, I lived in England because my dad was in the Marine Corps and we were stationed there. And I got heavily involved in the theater. So I always had that love for it, for the written word, for the characters, especially the characters. And I love dialogue because dialogue is the window, dialogue and actions, but definitely dialogue because we never say what we think, like rarely, you know, even with our closest, most intimate, to actually say exactly what we mean is so hard. So the layers below that, I'm fascinated by. So that's why even with my characters, they say things, but there's like all this other stuff going on, which, is just normal. Um, but when after years of doing acting and all the different ways to support myself, mostly in Los Angeles, I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And I shifted over into the other side of the camera and just from a confluence of amazing conveniences, I was able to start producing, and I've been doing that forever. And really lucky at it because started out doing like rap videos and then music videos and working with some of the biggest artists in the world. Most of them children, they're not really, but men children, men children, women children, but you know what I mean. It was that was quite a ride, and then sort of segued into producing. Um, and but during that time, I was like, something's not satisfied because I think as artists, and I say this to all my friends, I'm like, we're all artists, and if you don't feed it, it's going to eat you. It will devour your soul in ways that you just don't even understand. And it wasn't until the pandemic, and I had had dabbling with writing for years, like trying screenplays with a partner or whatever, and just like whatever. It wasn't until I moved to New Jersey during the pandemic that I was just like, well, what am I going to do? And then I jumped back into the Jack Grapes collective of writers, which I had done years before. And all of a sudden, I got really excited about writing again. And to me, it's just like, even now, I will carve out time, like even for this last publication. I was like, how am I going to fit this in? For a moment I did, why did I say yes? But then I went, no, it's okay. So I will schedule it in, even with all the madness that I have going on. I'm like, nope, I need 3 hours here. Great, walk away. I need 2 hours there, and I'll just give it some time. I kind of wish sometimes I'd give it more time because when I do come up with a piece that I really like, it's just it feels so good, you know? So anyway, I don't know if I answered your question, but I
Yeah, yeah, it's
gambled on that one.
beautiful. I mean, and it's interesting what you're saying about setting aside time because you're a really busy person
Yeah.
and you find the time, you make the time.
Yeah, it's interesting because I didn't really last year I didn't make the time.
Mm.
I decided not to. I was like, I'm not going to do that. And I could see that it was doing the thing that I preach. It was starting to eat at me. I wasn't given enough time for me. But I part of it was, well, why am I really doing this? What does it really matter? It's one of those things. I'm sure everybody, maybe you feel that way. And then I went, oh, wait, it doesn't matter. I don't like, sure, everybody's always like, I want to write the book or I want to do this or I want to. And I was just like, I ran into that for so many years as an actress. And I finally got up to a point, and this is just recently in the last year, where I just went, it doesn't matter. I can write and I can then stick it on the shelf or I can publish it or I can read it to someone. Like it doesn't matter. And
Mm.
that was a revelation,
It,
because
it doesn't matter what you do with it, it matters that you do it.
yes, exactly. Exactly.
How do you connect more deeply with that? So, because like I coach writers, and sometimes they have a really hard time establishing a writing practice, especially a lot of my ones who are not published or not in a community or whatever. And I think there is this need to connect with I do it because it matters that I do it. How do you
Hmm.
do that? How do you like bring that to the fore and say this matters, it's a priority. I'm going to center this in some way in my life. How do you do that internally?
That's a really good question because I'm extremely disciplined in my career life, and I am not at all as a creator. So I understand that. I know that everybody's been like, you should write every day. If you're a writer, you should write every day. And I'm like, should. You know, that isn't what's going to happen. So um, I personally thrive when it's some kind of I don't like not class, but if it's a group of people and they're like, if I have not a deadline per se, but a structure that is given to me, that is so much more helpful than me doing it. Now, that's just me saying what's gone on for most of my life because that was the same as an actress. My creative self is like, play. And my creative self is often led by my emotions. As a producer, I know you don't do that. You can't do that. And so that sort of new realization was, well, how about you do it anyway? Just do it anyway, just like with my career stuff. But I also didn't put strong structure around it because I knew that wouldn't work. I just went, just do it a couple times this week. That's it. A couple times. Like, and it's okay if it kind of sucks. And that feels different. But that's me coming to that like, 150 years later. So I don't know,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know
yeah.
it's difficult for a lot of people, I'm sure.
Well,
But
it's
that
sort
feels
of
better.
like that sweet spot between enticing ourselves and forcing ourselves.
Yeah.
It has to be a little bit of both, I think, right?
I think you're right because if you force yourself into it, I know Stephen King used to talk about the man with the cigar in the leather chair that he'd wait for it to appear. So it was the book on writing, which I loved. I read that a million years ago, and I always love that because I'm like, where's my fat old guy with the cigar? Like, is he going to show up? Because then they would have the conversation and he could write. Um, but for me, I'm just like. I have the tools. I already have the tools. I've been given the tools. I know what they are. And so if I can get out of my way, because the thing that stops us is that thing that we are no good. And so if you can just like step aside and go, maybe we're not. Who cares? Like, we're just going to write anyway. I don't know why I became a we, but you know what I mean?
Because we're a conglomerate of all there are different
Yeah,
for
it's
sure.
true. It's true.
No, it's kind of like herding the cats that are the selves, right?
Yes, yes. Wow, wow.
No,
That's true.
it's really a thing, and I feel it in myself, and I see it in my clients, and it's a soft solution. Like it's never like, well, a lot of people are like, I have to write every day, and I'm not a write every day person. And it's funny because sometimes like I work with writers in Hodgepodge, and they're like, well, I assume you write every day, and I don't, I can't because then I start feeling oppressed by it.
Yes, yeah. I totally get that. I really do. And I think if you just give, like, maybe some people go, this month I will write once a week, or this month I will, like, whatever it is. But even that feels like a structure, but I think it's more manageable.
Yeah. Well, that's the
Yeah.
thing. Like again, I feel like it's that sweet spot in between. If I don't have something structured, it's really unlikely that it's going to happen at all.
That that's the thing. Year after year after year, we look back and we go, oh, it could have happened.
Right, right,
But I think so. I think it's that soft thing and giving yourself the, I don't know, the grace to be able to not be great and then to also allow that maybe it could be,
right.
you know?
And sometimes it's like both are scary, right?
Yes.
I'm afraid of being terrible, and I'm also afraid of being brilliant, I think, on some level, right? Do you feel that?
I think so. It's so funny. I've heard that before about, like, I used to hear that about just success in general. And I'm like, is I is that true?
Mm.
And maybe it is, but I don't know. I can't identify with what that means.
Right,
But I
right,
know that that must be a thing for everyone because sometimes you're like, well, it's not fear of being bad right now. So what is that? So it's an interesting perspective for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. Well, let's just move into some of these questions that I had set aside. I'm thinking about do you have a relationship in your life that's very alive for you right now that has an impact on your writing? And if so, what would that be? And it doesn't have to be a person. It could be a person. It could be a quality. It could be any sort of relationship to something.
Well, that's a really interesting question, and I think that the relationship, well, definitely having a connection with the group of writers that I know from the Jack Grapes group collective. Whenever I show up for it's called a class, but it's not. It's some phenomenal writers that just get together, and he kind of just guides at this point, just gives them prompts, but just helps the process. But just showing up and seeing every face, I'm like, it's just something where you just go, oh, I'm home. And so I would say that.
Yeah, and it's interesting because a lot of writers are very introvert. I don't think you're introverted. I'm guessing you're not an introvert. Are you an introvert?
Well, I just read that I think this is the actress coming out, but I think as a person, and I am,
You're
you know,
introverted?
when I'm not out in the world, like right now I'm out in the world and I'm talking to you and it's great. When I am off, I am, boom. I
So
just sit at home and read a book, have a cup of tea, sit with my husband. I kind of try to reboot my energy for the world. Yeah.
yeah, so that's super interesting because a lot of times writers will avoid writing groups because of being introverted. Or they'll be
Oh,
shy or they'll be, there can be a resistance of like, well, but I always hear about what you're talking about, that when you're in a particular group that it just feeds the process in yourself, and where you're inspired by somebody, or you get to help somebody, or somebody gets to help you, and it's just very synergistic, I guess, what I hear.
yeah. I wish there were more, and maybe there are, because I just think it's just what we all need. I think we need to have groups.
Yeah.
And I think you're forming a group,
Yeah,
when- in this community. You're forming a community, and I know that it's going to have possibilities and growth, which is great.
yeah, I mean, and it's like organically that's happening. Yeah, which is exciting. Yeah, I mean, we need each other. We're the human species. Like that's part of our genetic makeup.
Yeah, totally. Like when you guys invited some of the writers, on Mondays to come in, just join for 15 minutes. That was so great because I usually don't have time, and I did. And you were like, "Oh my God!" But to everyone,
I'm
and I
so
could,
happy to see you.
well, I was so happy to be there, and then yeah, so that was really great. And then thank you very much when I sent in my piece, which is the longest one I've written to date, and you were like, 3,100 words, go girl. And I was like, I know, right? Like just knowing that someone knows, because that was a feat. That was a feat.
Yeah, yeah, that was a big deal. What It's something that I think about a lot, again, just sort of in my professional development side of my brain, is I'm always trying to think about, being edited is hard. I'm actually editing a memoir right now, and it's so personal. This is a person, pouring out their heart and their story, and I'm critical, like I mean, that's what I do for work, and so but I'm always sort of thinking about, from the writer's point of view, what is it that makes a good relationship with an editor? Because I think a lot of the soft skills and the communication and some of the subtle aspects can really make or break whether that process is successful or not. So you've been edited, and I'm just curious on your end, like what makes that relationship really work for you?
Well, I have a couple of things to say about that. So my old life when I used to write screenplays with a partner, the first and it kind of we were really trying to work with heavy hitters. Like we were connecting with some pretty, like I said, heavy hitters. So the first time, the first screenplay, we, were connecting with the producers at Wildwood, and the one woman was like the head of Wildwood, which, and she was a friend of my partner. And I remember the first time, this first thing I'd ever written, and most of it was my story. And she brought into, the script printed out with red lines. And the fact that she said, you guys wrote a good script, first off. But then I crumbled at the amount of comments. I'm just saying this is the first time. To the point where I was like, I don't want to write anymore. I realized that was not that this woman was giving us a gift. And if we had stuck with that and rewritten and done the edits, it could have gotten made. Instead, we continued to write other things, and then later we got a script almost picked up, but it was picked up by a production company, and they gave us notes. I was so ready. So when they gave us notes, we were like, no problem. We turned them around in 3 days. It was just like, not a problem. We can do it. We can do it. So, but that was many years ago. So now, when in this process, I had a wonderful editor for Hotchpotch. And when he sent back, I was ready. And I said to my husband, I go, there's the girl inside of me is like, he didn't say it's amazing. But it's like, I don't want him to say it's amazing. Because of course, I'm sure he thinks it's good, but he was so good, and other editors for Hotchbox, same, but it's just so clear. And I was like, oh, I didn't see that. So instead of me taking it personally, I took it as I am a writer. This is my editor. And it's same thing in film, commercials, etc. The editor helps make it better. So the editor, if you look at that as your sort of, other eyes, not to say you're bad or you didn't do that or how do you, no, it's just here's a point of view and you don't have to take it. But if you do, you might learn something, or not learn, but you might actually create something together. And so the edits that I had for my piece, I went, I told him, I said, I think I took like 80%, which, and then the other ones, maybe it's like a comma here or something. I'm like, no, I don't, but that's fine. It was just like, but they were really good edits. And it was the first time that I've ever gone, this is a partnership. Like I've made the cake and somebody's coming in going, okay, you need a little, okay, now you can serve it. Yeah.
I love that. It's a partnership. It's a partnership.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got to trust your editor. And
Mhm.
it's certainly, I had read some of my editor's work and I already knew like, oh, ooh, goody,
Yeah,
So
well, so the main, and that's another element. The editor has to be a good writer themselves.
yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Tell us about a little bit about growing pains. And if you maybe a central relationship in that piece, if that feels applicable.
Well, I think that I picked a piece of artwork that resonated, and it was about alienation, but mainly, I think that every person, I don't care what anybody says, for most people, we feel awkward in every situation. So some people carry it off better, but my character doesn't. She is like so obviously awkward to the point that I just fell in love with her because I was like, and I just leaned into it. I'm just like, yeah, she's like really awkward. But then I fell for her because I'm just like the a little of the introverted, but also the awkward in every situation and just, but knows it, but doesn't feel sorry for herself. She's just like, this is the way I am, you know, but then that she has something that occurs that lets her express herself in new ways.
Love
But
that.
but ultimately, we don't know. Did she ever change? Does it matter? Do we need her to? Maybe not. Maybe she's perfect as she is.
Well, it almost sounds like she has a particular relationship with her own awkwardness that's endearing.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Nice, nice. See, that's Laura's piece for people listening in issue 5.1 of Hodgepodge. Just I didn't make that clear. Um, where can we read more of your work? I'm going to be publishing links and stuff, but where else can we find you? Your writing is amazing, and people are going to want
Oh,
to get a copy.
well, that is something I also would like to start working on, which I'm getting more confidence or confidence. I don't even know if that's the right word. It's finding the time, putting effort into it. But I made a website for myself last year, which is just laurajmorris.com, where I've put in the pieces that I have published, just little flash fiction poetry, which I didn't even know I was a poet. And then I came out with some poetry and published those pieces and I'm like, I'll put those in. But I think that that's a great place to start. Again, it'll say the publications that I was published in. But this year, so last year, my goal was write an actual short story, which is the one that's going to be in Hodgepodge 5.1. That's longer. So that's a great accomplishment for me. But also this year is putting together a collection of all of my flash fiction and yeah, because I mean I have so many that even ones that I haven't published yet. So that would be my 2026 goal. So I'll put that on my website.
And
That's
are you going to do a book?
yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow. Are you self-publishing or submitting it to
I don't know, Gail, and that's what I love about this and knowing you because we will certainly be talking
Oh,
because
I'm so thrilled to hear this. I'm so thrilled. Yeah, very, very cool. Yeah, I want a copy of whatever it is in my fine hands. Just the last question. If you had one piece of advice to impart to other writers who are listening, what would that be?
mm, I would say that the creative process is such a wonderful, wonderful part of our humanity. And to write is, and again, we've touched on it throughout this conversation, but to write, it is so important to express yourself in whatever way you can. So if it comes out as writing, amazing. If it comes out as painting, whatever it is, and sometimes it comes out as all of it, but I would just say not to beat yourself up, to allow yourself to, stumble and to let in other people to give feedback because feedback can come in support in ways that you just didn't even know.
Lovely. Yeah, there's I've been having conversations about audience and encouraging people to think very expansively about audience. And I like having audiences of one, um, whether it's an email, a letter, a gift, or something, but that's an audience. That's a connect, it's a communication from an artist to a reader.
That's lovely. That's lovely.
It doesn't have to be a buttload of people. It can
No,
be anybody. Yeah. Great. Thank you, Laura. It's been such a pleasure, and I really appreciate you taking the time because you're so busy. So thank you.
thank you. And thank you for bringing so much color to this. I'm like all in black and you're this beautiful pink. Thank you.